started the race. Again, we lose Stephen trying to join the race. Sorry, Stephen, but please do try to get back into the lobby. You still got 10 minutes to go. So guys, if you are just joining us back on the stream, please just drop us a message, tell us that you're watching, and just give us the comments of what you thought about the first race. Some really interesting results that had happened there. 4 drivers running out of fuel, and that really changed up the final results. Savvy, what do you think about that at Brabant at Alpha race?
It was absolutely incredible. I mean, we were watching and all of a sudden things were just flying at us. And yeah, what an absolute race to watch. And then all of a sudden, guys running out of fuel, guys obviously getting a lot of engine damage. I think a lot of over-revving was going on. Even though Charles was saying he maintained the tires nicely right through, he could have carried on. I mean, the rest of the guys were talking about 20 damage on the engines, 30 damage on the engines, and that's why we were seeing a lot of muddling up. And actually, I mean, even towards the end, even I think yourself, you got the results incorrect because of the changes that were there. But we were corrected. We were corrected.
We were corrected. But I thought I'd memorized who had come second, and then I was like, I had total blank. Because it was actually Bruno, Chris and Jakes, they were in the running there to take that position. And then Jakes ran out of fuel on lap 24. Bruno had to go into the pit, so he landed up coming out in 6th. Christopher, he also ran out of fuel and he had to go get some fuel. And it was Jacques who was down in 5th place. He took the 2nd place. And then Jacques Vermeulen, he was circulating in 7th position. And he landed up getting a podium, and unfortunately he didn't have a mark, so we weren't able to get his reaction on how he felt about the race. But man, what a crazy ending to that race.
Speechless, absolutely speechless.
So let's just have a look at who is racing with us this evening. So we have the Bravo results coming up. So currently leading this championship is Ashley. He's got 1 win and a podium. Craig, his teammates, he's unfortunately not well, and has said, guys, that he won't be able to race. Rudy, he's up into 3rd place with Gavin in 4th. That is Yolan in 5th. Theo, he's in 6th place with Johnny Speed in 7th. Memo in 8th. As you can see, a number of drivers we haven't heard from. Ronald, not sure where he is. And poor old Stephen, he's had 1 heat with us, and unfortunately we got him into the lobby, and just as we were about to get started, there was a slight clash. We asked him to please just go out to come back in, and that was the end of that. He wasn't able to join us. Poor old Peter, he too has not had much luck joining us. He has no power at home, so unfortunately can't even watch the stream this evening. Roy, he joins us this evening, so welcome Roy. He's also had a few disconnections, so we've lost him, so hopefully he'll be able to stay with us. Kodonks, he's not available but has promised to be back next week, as well as Paul in 16th place. He'll also be with us hopefully next week, so we can get the drivers up to 12 drivers for the next race, and we can only hope. So let's look at the current lap time. So Theo, an impressive 129.7. He's currently top with Ashley in 2nd place. Theo going quicker, that's a 129.3. Ashley, he's in 2nd place with a 130.6. Then Rudy 131.4. And that is Yolan, he's 132.0 with Gavin right behind him, 132.1. That's Roy, 136.6, and Johnny, he's still to put in a time. And I'm not sure, Savvy, whether you picked up some of the nerves from the guys when we were in the lobby.
Just before we sort of came over to stream side, I heard a lot of guys talking, whoa, at least I'm going to have a 7 tonight. But I think a lot of them were actually just a little bit worried about Long Island. It is a difficult track. and I think a lot of people are a little bit nervous, as you said. But we'll see how it goes down this evening.
Yeah, most definitely. And for me, these guys just need to get into rhythm. They must try not race each other. Just get comfortable with the car and just put in the consistent lap times. And then what will happen is you'll see that you will start closing the gap on the guys in front of you. And as soon as you start putting pressure, that's when things start happening.
Some good advice there from Dylan, guys. So if you're listening, that's the way to handle Long Beach. I know it's quite a challenging track.
So I was very sternly corrected, because I did say, oh, you can just see that a little turn in too soon from Rudy, and he just clipped that inside wall. And that's put him back in the pits. You can see the scrapes there on the side of the car. That is his teammate, Jolan. Both Rudy and Jolan are driving for Synergy Racing, so no team points for this championship. Well, that was pretty close to the outside wall there. But he did manage to keep it away. One 29.34 Theo. So now 1.2 seconds away from Ashley, who's currently in second place. And just looking at the times, it does seem that Theo should run away with this race, and he'll definitely start closing up some points to both Ashley and Craig on top of the list.
So around about 1 minute and 20 odd seconds to go in this session, and I think everybody's barking for a place on pole position this evening.
So currently we are following Ashley, and I think if anyone, whoa, he is not going to be doing it with that lap. You can see he just clipped that wall. Well, I'm not quite sure whether that was wall or if it was a little bit of lag. There we see the scratches on the side of the car, so he definitely did touch that wall, so that's not going to help him for that pole. Let's see whether Gavin can find just that little bit more pace and put himself ahead of Ashley. One of the trickier sections of the track. So that was Johnny just getting well out of the way for Gavin. Nice little power slide there for the camera, but unfortunately it looks good for the camera, but all you're doing is you're just wasting your drive coming out of the corner. And obviously Gavin realizing that he wouldn't have been able to get that extra time in, so just retired to pits. This is Johnny.
Where's Johnny?
So Johnny is currently 6th. And the way he's currently driving, I wonder whether he's actually going to be improving on his time. And no, he realized he hasn't. So that's him back in the pits. So the last person on track is Ashley. So that was Ashley coming out of turn number 6. That's him now going into turn number 8. So interestingly enough, is you go into turn number 6, and then there's actually the little orange tag that's on the right hand side. That's actually considered turn number 7. It's very strange that they had done that. So this is turn 9, now going into turn number 10. It is a double apex corner. You want to stay nice and tight on the inside, then straighten out there, and a great exit there for Ashley. And wonder whether he'll be able to close some of the time there on Theo. And he'll across the line, and yes, he did find himself I think it was 0.2 of a second. So we now will be going into the holding screen. Just need to push the continue button there. So while we're waiting for the sync to happen, just want to bring up that last night we did have the time war race to remember, and that is in support of the Blood Drive 101. You can go check out the Blood Drive 101 Facebook page, and that is in support of the Moore family looking to collect 250 pounds of blood, and that is to just help recover the stocks that were taken while Ty was fighting for his life, having used over 200 pounds of blood in the 5 months that he was in hospital. So really a great initiative, and if you can, please go check out the Facebook page, go donate the blood, and just post that picture on the group just to show your support. So we have had our sync. There is the sync, so we will be racing. We're waiting for the green lights. So it is a green lights and away we go. So Yulan's got a great start off the line, going very close to his teammate. It is Theo, he too is away. I'm not sure whether the 3 wide going into turn number 1 is gonna work. Just hope the guys give themselves just a little bit space to slow down to go into turn number 1, and yes, they have just made space for each other. We can see Stephen has still been trying to get into the lobby. Unfortunately, he will be missing out. But Theo, that is in a Intrepid Striker, he is away in front. Yolan, he's put himself into second place. That's Ashley. He's lost out 2 places coming off the start, and there's a spin in the background. I think that is Rudy. Yes, it is. That is the Synergy Racing driver. He's unfortunately lost it. So Theo currently sitting in second place. He's got Gavin right behind him, and now Ashley, the second fastest in qualifying. He's got all the work to do now to try and close the gap on the 2 in front of him, and hopefully start putting some pressure on Theo in the front. Little move for Gavin going to the inside, turn number 9, but a very tricky place to overtake there. The side by side. So he will have taken the slower inside line, with Ashley having gone wider. So I think he might get a much better run coming out of the corner, which will give him a little bit of a straight line advantage. You see very much in the slipstream of Gavin. Little look to the inside for Ashley, but I think it's just to show Gavin that he's there, but it wasn't really an opportunity to take a place. So we are on lap number 2 of this 40-minute race. Guys, if you are on the stream, give us a message, come say hi, come tell us who you think is going to win this race. Where at the moment Theo is looking in command. He's ahead by 3.8 seconds over Yolan, who's now leading the battle here for 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Gavin going a little bit defensive, but that's going to hamper his exit speed. Actually tries to do a little bit of a cutback there on that corner. Down East Seaside Way. We're actually carrying a little bit more speed than Gavin through there, but unfortunately this is not a place to overtake. We did see a little bit of tapping between that was Chris on the rear of Bruno in the first one, and it just seemed that the guys, they did say that they got a little bit frisky in that first race, savvy, and they did seem to sort it out between them.
Absolutely, and isn't it great to have them back on the track this week and humming it out as we go on board with Ash today.
That was Yolan on the side.
He's coming in.
Yolan unfortunately it's touching the side, so that's not going to help his exit speed there. But I must say, I'm wondering whether Ashley's just decided just to sit back here and just wait for the mistake, because he doesn't seem to really be challenging for the positions just yet. Oh, there was a little tag there on the back of Gavin. I'm sure if this was real life, we would see a few little hand gestures coming up as to say, what are you doing? Give me some space. So now into this tricky turn at number 9, break 300 meter mark, turn in, hit the inside apex, change up into third, tighten up, then hard on the brakes, and down into first, back on that power as early as possible to get the run down the start finish line. And Theo is absolutely flying at the moment, doing 129.6s. So his pace is just about in the top 6 of the Alpha tier. Oh my goodness, that is very, very unfortunate. That was Yolan going too hot into turn number 1, and unfortunately Gavin hitting him and Ashley taking a little graze. But that's definitely what we don't want to see. But that wasn't to anyone's fault, unfortunately.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, that was obviously too hot. I think Noel too hot into there, and then obviously Gavin being quite close. Obviously, he could not avoid or even try and miss him.
Yeah.
And then obviously you could see all 3 of them there. So, well, they're back in the racing from what I can see. Gavin down to 7th position though.
Yeah,
so he's got a long way to come back.
The pack here still early on in the race, they are still quite close together. But if Gavin gets his head down, he was doing good enough laps that he should be able to work his way back up through the field. And then for Yolan, for him now, it's also to just shake that off, just make sure he's hitting that braking marker going into turn number 1, and hopefully he too can start closing the gap on Ashley, because you can see at 1:39.6, definitely not a normal lap time. That's because we did see him going straight into the wall. So Savvy, if we could just jump
laps,
to 3rd position, please.
Of course, no problem.
Because I'm just seeing a little cluster there. So that is Yolan, then Roy and Johnny. They're having a little battle on themselves, and I'm just wondering whether both Roy and Johnny know that Yolan has got some damage, because we can see the scratches on the front of his car.
I think they pretty much gathered it because he's slowed down quite a bit, and you can see on the back end there he's also got a bit of scuff marks.
Yeah, I think that was actually where when Ashley went through, gave him a little tag.
Oh, look at that on the outside.
What a great move there
What
by
a
Johnny.
move.
We didn't see it, but Johnny managed to leapfrog both the drivers. So that was an incredible move. Roy and Yolan did not see him coming, and that's now put Johnny up into 3rd place. And there comes Gavin in the background, so you can just wait until they cross the start finish line just to see the different lap times. Oh, sorry, that is actually Rudy who's now closed up that gap. So Gavin did a 1:51.9, so I think that he is having a horrid time at the back there now, because I honestly thought he'd be able to start closing the gap. So this is now Yolan, and he is following Roy. So So this is Roy going into turn number 6.
Yeah, I must say the camera angles are not so good on this track, so we definitely have some interesting views sometimes. Oh, look at that.
That's Rudy really trying to put on the power a little bit too early, carried way too much speed, and he unfortunately just collected that wall. But actually still thinking about that overtake there by Johnny, going past both Roy and Yolan. Now obviously did not see him coming, but what a great move to the inside there. So let's see whether Roy
here's
will
an
be able
opportunity
to take the slipstream down into turn number 1. So it just sounded like Roy's car was just hitting the limiter there. I'm not sure whether he's got the shorter ratio. And I'm just looking at the map, and it looks like Theo is actually lapped Gavin. So Gavin is now a lap down. So I do believe that he's probably had a little visit to the wall once again. So Theo is definitely the fastest on track at the moment. He is nearly 2 seconds a lap quicker than Ashley, who's in second place, and that gap is definitely starting to open up. But really enjoying this little battle here between Roy and Johnny. And the two Synergy Racing drivers, they are starting to get very close to each other. And I have a question for you, Savvy. Do you think there are team orders between Yolan and Rudy?
Oh, I think who's driving in real life together? Is it these two? I can never remember.
No, that's
but
Craig,
I can tell
Craig
you now.
and Ashley.
Okay, so Craig and Ashley. I think these guys obviously are going to be showing who's boss here this evening. I don't think there's any team orders. They've got to do their best, and it's an individual sport this evening. It's no team, so I don't think they're going to be,
Well, I see we've actually just lost Yolan.
Oh my goodness.
Because he's left the session. That's not good to see. So I'm not sure whether him and Rudy went side by side into the corner and he completely binned it.
Oh goodness.
But what we can do is we'll just keep that note and we'll ask Rudy what actually happened there going into turn number 1. So Roy is starting to put more pressure here on Johnny. So they cross the line for lap number 9. And Roy going 0.2 quicker than Johnny. So I think Roy is just trying to bind himself sometimes, see where Johnny's making any mistakes. But that was really great judgment there by Roy. He managed to get the car slowed down, turned in, and he was right up the rear of Johnny. So Theo did a 1:30.1, so he is staying quite consistent within like 0.3 of a second per lap. So that's really good, and it's kind of seeing pretty much what happened in the Alpha tier, where the Scholl, the leader, he managed to get away, managed to stay out of any of the battles, just get the laps done. Oh, that's Johnny going a little bit wide, and Roy taking advantage of that. Let's see whether he'll tighten up and take a wider entry into the last corner. Well, unfortunately, just the rear just kicking out on him just a little bit, so that's definitely going to hamper that performance getting out of the last corner down the main straight. Because ideally you want to be exiting the drive in front of you at the same time, and then you are going to get the slipstream advantage. Oh, I don't think Roy could have got any closer to that wall. You could just see how that corner just fades away as you go over that crest. So we are 15 minutes into this 40-minute race. We are on a lap number 10, and we are expecting to do around about 26 laps, depending on whether Theo is able to go just a little bit quicker, that we might get onto that 27 laps, which is what the Alpha tier, landed up doing. And boy, if you missed that, don't check out the stream. Even if you just go to the end of the race, just go see the mayhem or the chaos that ended up happening, just in terms of how the positions were changing with 4 drivers running out of fuel. That really made things exciting. So side by side with Roy, that is absolutely fantastic. I think Johnny just miscalculated how far Roy was, and Roy managed to move himself up into 3rd place.
Could be a lot of celebrating this evening.
So Johnny a little bit too far away to make an attack back onto Roy. And if you look at the lap times, Roy 0.7 of a second quicker than Johnny. Ooh, little kick of the rear, getting back on that power. So down West Shoreline Drive, now into turn number 6. And this now technically is turn number 7, where to me they basically look like once you've turned out of turn number 6, it is pretty much straight. I'm not sure why they would have called that an actual corner.
Great competitive driving here.
Can hear how Johnny's really using the gears to try and slow that car down, get it turned in. And you can just see the better drive that Roy got going out of that corner. So Roy definitely starting to open a gap on Johnny. Roy into 3rd place, and now doing 0.7 of a second quicker than Johnny. So Johnny definitely starting to lose out a little bit here. Savvy, if you don't mind just jumping to Gavin, I just want to go have a look at the state of his car.
Yeah, there's the front of it. See,
so he's
quite
definitely has taken some damage. There's a little bit of damage on the rear of his car, and I just want to see how his car's tracking in the straight line, because if we start seeing that was very close. If we see the car just twitching from left to right, then we know he's got a little bit of suspension damage, and what that will do is will basically pull the car towards where the damage is.
Yeah, I did see a bit of twitching, so I don't know if you saw it in that shot there. I did see that there's quite a bit of twitching going on there.
the best thing to do is actually just jump into the cockpit and you get to see the wheel itself, and if the car is moving without the wheel being turned, then you know that there's some damage.
Well, let's do that quickly. We'll just go into the cockpit.
So we actually can't really see the steering wheel, so
but you can see
the
on
idea
the
was good.
Yeah, the idea was
touched up against the wall, going onto the brakes.
But if you look to the right side there, the fender's lifted quite significantly to the left side. So I think there's definitely nursing a bit of damage there.
Yeah, so I can see that the car is pulling a little bit to the left. You can see that on the, as he went onto the brakes, it went a little bit to the left. So yeah, he's definitely not in a car that's doing very well. But he just needs to keep his head down and now finish the race, and that will give him a 6th place. And Johnny and Roy are still at it. So Johnny actually losing 2 seconds to Roy on that last lap. And we are just about halfway. So 20 minutes left of this race. So we're definitely going to have some conversations with Ashley and possibly see how we as SARCO are able to offer our own server for Project Cars 2, because that would definitely just change the guys and the connectivity within the lobbies, and I really just hope that we're able to get more guys racing more often and start eliminating some of these disconnections. Whoa, that was extremely close, and we can actually see that for some reason Johnny's wipers went on. I'm not sure whether he got himself a fright and they end up just pushing that button by accident. And the only reason I'm able to laugh is because I've done that to myself before. So just going to have a little calculation here just to see how these guys are doing, so we can say that we have got 18 minutes. So that is 18 times 60. So that will give us 1,080 minutes, and looks like Theo's now doing a 1:30. So divide that by 90 seconds and we're in for about 12 laps. So yes, that will put us on 27 laps. So we just hope that the guys were watching the stream for the first race. They saw some of the challenges that the guys had with the fuel, and whether they've listened and put in 27 laps of fuel. Johnny giving a little flash. I don't know whether he's trying to intimidate Roy. You see, Rudy's gone into the pits. I wonder whether he's gone in to fix some damage. But that now means that Gavin has found himself a place, so he's moved up into 5th position. I'm just looking at the track visual to see whether Rudy is moving. So Rudy is moving, so he definitely went into the pits to go and do something. Whether it was fuel or fix some damage. I don't think he was in the pits for long enough to actually have some damage repaired. So possibly some fuel, maybe he we underestimated the amount of fuel he had when he started the race. Oh my goodness.
Ooh.
That was Roy going into turn number 1. You think he had just caught the wall that spun him around. And unfortunately Roy now dropping down into 4th place, and he's just given that place back to Johnny. So Johnny now in 3rd. There's Roy in the background. He's going to be carrying a little bit of damage. That is definitely not what he wanted. So I do have the live stream up on my side, so I'm just able to keep an eye. Just want to see what actually happened there with Roy. I'm not sure whether we'll be able to see it or not. But that's them now coming over the start finish line. So unfortunately it looks like Roy was out of view, and yeah, sure, Johnny just managed to sneak past there. So that is Ashley. He's now coming up to a lap driver. That I think that is Rudy, but that car is definitely looking worse for wear. So he's just getting out of the way. The poor car doesn't know whether it wants to be fixed or not. And I have a clear memory of one of the TTR driver's car looking like that after rolling it at Snetterton. Little cone going down the track. I wonder if it will land upright. That would be pretty impressive. Great tight line there for Ash. You can see how wide he stays there to take the quickest line through the hairpin there, turn number 11. And the wider your line through there, the faster the line, which means the faster your speed is going down the main straight. So less than 15 minutes to go. Guys, if you are on the stream, give us a note. Tell us what you think. We do want to hear from you. So there's Theo's car looking in absolute mint condition. He really has had a good race. His lap time is dropping down just a little bit. I think he's kind of realized that all he wants to do is just get it home. I see a little scrape on the left hand side of the car, so he's probably lost it either coming out of turn number 5 or possibly turn number 8. So he's probably just put it on the wall and realized, hold on, for me to win this you have to finish first. So this is definitely one of the more challenging tracks that the guys will be racing. And next week we will be going to the Barcelona Catalunya track. That will be the GP track, also for a 40 minutes. But Savvy, this is where things are going to start getting very interesting, is that there is rain predicted for the first half of the race. So that's going to be really interesting, which means that there might be some tyre strategies that will come in. And that is Rudy. Unfortunately, he's now left. So we are down to 5 drivers, so that is the 2 Synergy Racing drivers out of this race.
Yeah, I think bringing the element of rain into the play will definitely spice things up. And
one of the interesting things about the rain is that we have set it to 4 weather settings. So there's 2 sessions of rain which means that there will be quite a bit of puddles, but then what happens is it will clear up. We'll go to a medium cloud, so will be enough temperature to start evaporating that water into clear, so we'll have some puddles around. Guys will have the option to go onto the softer tires, so definitely some pit strategies will come into play there for sure. So very interesting is that Theo went through turn number 5 in third gear, where for myself I like to actually just change it down into second. And what it did is I just felt that I had a little bit more grip because I had the revs at my disposal. So we were able to just power through it if the car did seem to be sliding, whereas I felt in the third gear is that there just wasn't enough power, and once the rear went, that was it. It was very tricky to catch it. So a message there from Rudy to say that's it for me. He kept making mistakes. His setup was just not good. So very unlucky there, Rudy. Sorry that we had lost you. So we have less than 10 minutes to go. So there is Gavin in the background, or is that Roy?
No, that's, I think, Roy.
You can see that bonnet keeps.
No, that's Roy.
So
there's Roy.
So that means that is actually Gavin. Because
that means that's Gabby.
There is Gavin. Driving in what looks like a drag car. And remember that the guys are driving with full damage on, and that is why you're seeing the actual damage on the cars. And if that bumper is off as well as his bonnet, I can almost guarantee that he has some suspension damage there as well. So that's actually 1.1 seconds just behind his fastest sector. So it seems like he's also keeping those laps nice and consistent. And I just hope that these guys have got their fuel right. Because I'm looking at a 9.6 liters. I can't really remember how many laps. Oh, how many liters the guys needed for a lap. So if we just keep it here as he crosses the line, we'll just see what the fuel usage is there, and we'll be able to work out that he has 5 laps left to go. So that is the start finish line. We'll be able to just take note of the fuel. So that is a 9.3 liters, and that is his best lap so far. So actually a 130.9. I'm sure he'll be very happy with that, having improved. And I must say, as technical as this track is, once you find that flow, oh man, it just goes so nicely. So Savvy, I can comfortably say that Ashley will have enough fuel, is that he has done a quarter of the lap and he's only used 0.3.
Just looking here, this is 6.2.
And they have just about 4 laps to go. Ooh. So if we can just jump back to Ashley, just so we can do the calculation on that fuel, because he had 9.3 when he across the start-finish line. So it looks like it might be just about 1 liter of fuel per lap, or let's say just under. So there's like 5.3, so it's about 0.8, maybe 0.9, say 0.8 liters per lap. So that means that Theo, if he had 6, there's 4 laps to go, so he'll be safe.
Well, let's go back to Theo just quickly to see where he is.
So
5.6 liters.
And there's 5 minutes left, so you'll have about 3 laps. I'm not sure whether he'll get in that 4th lap, so he should be okay. But I'm sure he'll be watching that fuel and start doing the calculations himself to make sure that he actually gets across that start-finish line. You can see Roy, he's actually doing faster lap times than Johnny, so if Roy hadn't have made that mistake going into turn number 1, I'm sure him and Johnny would still be battling it out, and it really would have made a great end to this race. Here's Roy just moving out the way, letting the leader go past without any hampering of his lap. Four minutes to go. So that's just on 3 laps. So yeah, it looks like that we will actually get the 27 laps in. Or maybe not. No. So I think sadly this race will only be the 26, but then he goes and does a 130.1, so yeah. Oh, that was very close to the wall there, Theo. Actually doing a 132.8, so he's also come off his pace now. But unfortunately we did start this lobby just a little bit longer. We did try and get Stephen in. We had him in. He was clashing with Theo. We asked Theo to go out. They were still clashing, and it was just as we got Theo back in. Unfortunately, we lost Stephen and he couldn't get his nat up to rectify itself. So very unfortunate there for Stephen. And Stephen, I do apologize. So 2 minutes left. So it looks like Theo will manage to sneak past and do that 27th lap. So Theo, he leads here, a lap number 26. And it looks like my camera has just moved. How is that even possible? I'm looking at the stream and all of a sudden things are not the way they were a couple of minutes ago. I'll just have to sit like this so people can still see my face. 1 minute 10 seconds to go. So I wonder whether Theo will see the time and just slow down and not do the extra lap, or whether he'll just continue racing, hit the 27th lap and get it done. So across the line, this will be the final lap of this race.
He didn't look as though he slowed down at all. He went for it, and I think he had the opportunity to keep the race to 26 laps, but he decided to go for it.
Yeah, but what I did see is that there were about 40 seconds left there, and Ashley was only 30 seconds behind. So if he had slowed down, all of a sudden he would have had Ashley right up behind him with still 10 seconds to go, which means he would have had to have pushed, and then the last thing you want to be doing is losing out in the last moment because you're trying to be clever. So here through turn number 8, great shot close up against the wall, and that is Theo now starting to close the gap on the third place Johnny. Through turn number 10, this is turn number, that was 9, that is turn number 10. Now the last corner, turn number 11. So Theo will cross the line to win, and that means that poor old Johnny will have to go around an entire lap once again. He has 100 seconds to go at the beep. Beep. So a great race there from Theo. He led from a start to finish, managed to get into the first corner without any incident, and he completely dominated the race and has really won here in great style. And he definitely was the favorite in the previous race, but unfortunately the fastest here at SARCO doesn't always win, but here he's proven us wrong, and he has done exactly that. Then Ashley, he will come home in a second place, and Johnny just needs to keep it on the track, and he will finish in third with Roy in fourth place. So there's Ashley completing it, coming through the fountain section in second. There's Johnny so that is him coming through turn number 9. Then through turn number 11 for the last time. And he will across the line in third. So that is your final results. It is Theo in first place, Ashley in second, Johnny in third, Roy in fourth place, and Gavin in fifth. So we can just jump into the lobby there just for the final interviews.
I was looking.
Great race there, gentlemen. Johnny, I just hope that you have your phone there with you, just so you can drop us a message on the Discord. You were chasing Roy there for a good couple of laps. Roy, that was a very unfortunate incident there for you, just going a little bit too deep into turn number 1, clipping that wall and allowing Johnny to go through. Johnny, just to you, I hope you enjoyed that race, and are you happy with your 3rd position on the podium? So while we're just waiting for Johnny to give us a response on the message, a great race there for you, Ashley, managing to keep it in 2nd place, and Theo was just unstoppable. Were you trying to catch Theo, or were you just trying to get the laps done?
No, I knew there was no ways I could catch Theo. He was just way too fast. We did it in the qualifying, and then I watched his times. He was just consistently a second faster each lap. So I just thought, we'll preserve the tires and just take it to the end and get the points. He drove a fantastic race. Well done.
Yeah, most definitely, Theo. Well done. We were doing some calculations at the end there just to make sure that you did have enough fuel, but you basically made it with about 4 laps of fuel. How did you enjoy that race? A little bit quiet out front?
Yeah, it was quite quiet, but yeah, I actually enjoyed it because I could have put my HUD off and just concentrate on my braking points. I think it was lap number 15 and 16. I think I felt the tires going off a little bit, just caught my breath a little bit on those 2 laps. And then eventually I made a couple of mistakes. I think not by pushing too hard, but not pushing at all. And then you know what happens, you miss your brake point, you turn into quickly and things like that.
So on the stream we did see that you had a little bit of damage on the left hand side. Was that through like turn 5 or turn 8? So one of the right-handers?
I think I was left turn 8. I scraped the wall. I think I was on my way to hit the inside wall, and I've turned out of the corner to prevent me from hitting the wall on the right hand side, and that caused me to scrape the car on the left hand side.
No, awesome. So we see that Johnny is typing a message up on the Discord, and he has said, yeah man, I'm happy. So he's definitely happy for that, taking that position away from Roy. Very unlucky for Roy. He said Roy had an awesome tussle for a great part of the race, and it was really nerve-wracking, but yeah, great race. So thank you very much, guys. To the guys that are on the stream, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back next week, and we will be racing at that was the wrong one. We are racing at the circuit of Catalunya, so that is in Barcelona. And don't forget, we will have some rain there for the first half of the race, so that's going to be very interesting. So thank you very much, guys, for joining, and don't forget that this live stream is proudly brought to you by Thrustmaster and Metal State, and we'll see you next week. To my co-commentator Sabi, thank you very much for joining me in the virtual commentary box once again. We'll see you next week.
Absolute pleasure. Enjoy the rest of the week. Only one day to go, so it's going to be holiday time soon.
Awesome.
For the weekend.
Guys, thank
Enjoy.
you very much. Take it easy, yos.
Yos.